Introduction to Climate Politics. Climate politics is the study of how governments, organizations, and individuals address climate change. It explores policies aimed at reducing the effects of global warming. Climate change is a serious issue caused by human activities like burning fossil fuels and deforestation. These activities release greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Global warming leads to rising temperatures, melting glaciers, and more extreme weather events. These changes affect every country, making climate action a global concern. Climate politics focuses on creating solutions to protect the planet and its people. Governments play a central role in climate politics. They create laws and policies to reduce emissions and encourage renewable energy use. For example, some countries offer tax benefits to companies that invest in clean energy. Others set limits on carbon emissions through carbon caps. International cooperation is also essential in climate politics. Countries need to work together to reduce emissions and share green technologies. Agreements like the Paris Agreement aim to unite nations in the fight against climate change. Non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and scientists also play a role in climate politics. NGOs raise public awareness about climate issues and push governments to act. Scientists provide data to show how human activities impact the planet. Their research is the basis for climate policies. Despite these efforts, climate politics faces many challenges. Countries have different interests and resources, which makes cooperation difficult. Some nations prioritize economic growth over environmental protection. Others lack the funds to adopt green technologies. Climate politics is a dynamic and evolving field. It requires action at the local, national, and global levels. As the impacts of climate change grow, the importance of climate politics increases. Understanding this topic is key to creating a sustainable future. The role of governments in climate action. Governments are the main drivers of climate action. They have the power to create laws, regulations, and incentives to protect the environment. Their decisions affect how industries operate and how resources are used. One key responsibility of governments is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. They can achieve this by setting emission limits, also known as carbon caps. For instance, governments can require factories to use cleaner technologies or switch to renewable energy. These actions help reduce pollution and slow down global warming. Governments also invest in green infrastructure. This includes building wind farms, solar power plants, and efficient public transportation systems. These investments reduce reliance on fossil fuels and create jobs in the clean energy sector. Another important role of governments is education and awareness. They can launch campaigns to inform citizens about the importance of saving energy and reducing waste. For example, some governments encourage recycling by providing free bins or offering rewards. Additionally, governments work with international organizations to address climate change on a global scale. They sign agreements like the Kyoto Protocol or the Paris Agreement to commit to reducing emissions. These agreements set targets and timelines for countries to follow. However, governments face challenges in implementing climate action. Economic interests often conflict with environmental goals. Industries that rely on fossil fuels may resist change because it affects their profits. Some politicians avoid strict climate policies to gain support from these industries. Another challenge is the unequal impact of climate change. Developing countries may struggle to afford green technologies or adapt to climate change effects. Wealthier nations are expected to support these countries, but cooperation is not always smooth. Governments have a crucial role in leading climate action. By balancing economic growth with environmental protection, they can create policies that benefit both people and the planet. International agreements on climate change. International agreements are essential in climate politics. They unite countries to fight climate change together. Climate change is a global issue that requires global solutions. One of the earliest agreements was the Kyoto Protocol, signed in 1997. It was the first treaty that required industrialized countries to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. However, some major countries did not participate, which limited its success. The Paris Agreement, signed in 2015, is one of the most important climate agreements. It aims to limit global warming to below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Countries set their own targets, known as Nationally Determined Contributions, NDCs, to reduce emissions. Unlike the Kyoto Protocol, the Paris Agreement includes both developed and developing countries. It also emphasizes financial support for poorer nations to help them adapt to climate change. Wealthier countries pledge funds to assist with clean energy projects and disaster preparedness. These agreements encourage collaboration among nations. They create a platform for sharing technology, expertise, and resources. For example, countries may work together on renewable energy projects or reforestation programs. However, international agreements face challenges. Some countries may fail to meet their targets due to economic or political issues. Others may withdraw from agreements, as seen when the United States temporarily left the Paris Agreement under the Trump administration. Additionally, enforcing these agreements can be difficult. There are no strict penalties for non-compliance, which may reduce their effectiveness. Some countries prioritize short-term economic gains over long-term environmental goals. Despite these challenges, international agreements are vital for addressing climate change. They provide a framework for cooperation and accountability. By working together, nations can create a more sustainable future for everyone. Climate change and economic policies. Climate change has a significant impact on global economies. At the same time, economic policies play a key role in addressing climate challenges. Governments and businesses must balance economic growth with environmental protection. One way to reduce the effects of climate change is through carbon pricing. This policy charges companies for the greenhouse gases they release into the atmosphere. There are two main types of carbon pricing: carbon taxes and cap-and-trade systems. Both encourage businesses to reduce emissions to save money. Green investments are another important economic strategy. Governments can fund renewable energy projects such as wind and solar power. These investments create jobs, reduce energy costs, and lower emissions. For example, many countries are transitioning to electric vehicles by providing subsidies for car manufacturers and buyers. Economic policies also focus on supporting industries that are vulnerable to climate change. For instance, farmers may receive financial aid to adopt sustainable practices. These include water-saving technologies or crop rotation to maintain soil health. However, not all economic policies align with climate goals. Subsidies for fossil fuels remain common in many countries. These subsidies make coal, oil, and gas cheaper, encouraging their continued use. This conflicts with the goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Another challenge is the cost of transitioning to a green economy. Developing countries may lack the funds needed for clean energy projects or climate adaptation. International support is essential to help these nations meet their climate goals. Balancing economic policies with climate action is a complex task. Policymakers must consider long-term environmental benefits alongside short-term economic impacts. By aligning economic policies with climate goals, governments can create a sustainable future while supporting economic growth. The impact of climate politics on energy. Energy is at the heart of climate politics. The way we produce and consume energy directly impacts the environment. Fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and natural gas are major contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. To address this issue, governments are shifting towards renewable energy sources. Solar, wind, and hydroelectric power are clean alternatives that do not release harmful emissions. Many countries have set ambitious targets to increase the share of renewable energy in their power grids. For example, Denmark generates nearly half of its electricity from wind energy. Similarly, India is investing heavily in solar farms to reduce its dependence on coal. These efforts demonstrate how renewable energy can replace fossil fuels. Energy efficiency is another focus of climate politics. Governments encourage the use of energy-efficient appliances, vehicles, and buildings. For example, LED lights use less electricity and last longer than traditional bulbs. Electric cars are becoming more popular as a greener alternative to gasoline-powered vehicles. However, the transition to renewable energy is not without challenges. Fossil fuel industries resist change because it threatens their profits. They often lobby against renewable energy policies. Additionally, renewable energy projects require significant investment, which may not be affordable for all countries. Another issue is the reliability of renewable energy. Solar and wind power depend on weather conditions, which can be unpredictable. Governments are investing in energy storage technologies, like batteries, to address this problem. Despite these challenges, the shift towards renewable energy is essential for combating climate change. By transforming the energy sector, governments can significantly reduce emissions and promote sustainable development. Renewable energy initiatives. Renewable energy is a key solution to climate change. It involves using natural resources like sunlight, wind, and water to produce energy. Unlike fossil fuels, these sources are sustainable and do not harm the environment. Governments around the world are promoting renewable energy initiatives. For example, Germany's Energiewende policy focuses on transitioning to renewable energy. The country has invested in wind farms and solar panels to reduce its reliance on coal and nuclear power. China is another leader in renewable energy. It has built the largest solar farms and hydropower plants in the world. These projects have significantly reduced the country's carbon footprint. Developing countries are also adopting renewable energy solutions. In Africa, small solar projects provide electricity to remote villages. This improves the quality of life for many people and reduces the use of polluting fuels like diesel. Renewable energy initiatives are supported by international organizations. The United Nations promotes clean energy through programs like Sustainable Energy for All. These initiatives aim to ensure access to affordable and sustainable energy worldwide. However, there are challenges to implementing renewable energy projects. The initial cost of building solar panels or wind turbines can be high. Additionally, some countries lack the infrastructure needed to support these technologies. Despite these obstacles, renewable energy continues to grow rapidly. Governments are offering subsidies and tax incentives to encourage businesses and individuals to switch to clean energy. These efforts are essential for reducing global greenhouse gas emissions and combating climate change. Renewable energy is the future of the energy sector. By investing in these initiatives, countries can reduce their environmental impact and ensure a sustainable future for generations to come. Climate activism and its influence. Climate activism plays a powerful role in shaping climate politics. Activists raise awareness about environmental issues and demand action from governments, businesses, and individuals. Their efforts often lead to policy changes and increased public interest in climate change. One well-known activist is Greta Thunberg, who started the global Fridays for Future movement. Millions of young people joined her to protest for stronger climate policies. These demonstrations caught the attention of world leaders and encouraged them to take climate action more seriously. Non-governmental organizations, NGOs, are also key players in climate activism. Groups like Greenpeace and WWF use campaigns to highlight environmental issues. They organize events, publish reports, and collaborate with governments to promote sustainable solutions. Social media has become an important tool for climate activism. Platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook help activists reach a global audience. Viral campaigns, such as the Climate Strike hashtag, encourage people worldwide to participate in climate action. Activists also use art, documentaries, and public speaking to spread their message. Films like An Inconvenient Truth have educated millions about the dangers of climate change. These efforts inspire individuals to adopt eco-friendly habits and support climate-friendly policies. Despite their impact, climate activists face challenges. Critics argue that protests disrupt daily life or harm the economy. Some governments resist activist demands, prioritizing economic growth over environmental protection. Additionally, misinformation campaigns funded by fossil fuel companies undermine activist efforts. However, the influence of climate activism cannot be denied. Activists continue to pressure policymakers to act and inspire people to make a difference. Their work is essential for driving progress in climate politics and building a sustainable future. The role of science in climate politics. Science is the foundation of climate politics. It provides the data and evidence needed to understand climate change and create effective solutions. Without science, addressing climate challenges would be impossible. Scientists study how human activities like burning fossil fuels impact the environment. Their research shows how greenhouse gases trap heat in the atmosphere, leading to global warming. This information helps policymakers design strategies to reduce emissions and adapt to climate impacts. Organizations like the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, compile scientific findings to guide climate policies. The IPCC's reports explain the causes, effects, and possible solutions to climate change. These reports are used by governments worldwide to set emission targets and develop climate action plans. Climate science also drives innovation in renewable energy and green technologies. For example, advancements in solar panels and wind turbines make clean energy more affordable and efficient. Scientists are also working on carbon capture technologies to remove CO2 from the atmosphere. However, science often faces resistance in climate politics. Some industries and politicians question scientific findings to delay action. This creates confusion and slows progress. Additionally, translating complex scientific data into policies that everyone understands is a challenge. Despite these obstacles, the role of science remains critical. It helps the world understand the urgency of climate action and provides the tools needed to tackle climate challenges. By supporting scientific research, governments and organizations can ensure climate politics is based on facts and evidence. Climate policies and developing countries. Developing countries face unique challenges in climate politics. They are often more vulnerable to climate change, but have fewer resources to address it. For example, rising sea levels threaten small island nations, while droughts and floods impact agriculture in many African countries. Many developing countries depend on agriculture, which is highly sensitive to climate change. Extreme weather events like hurricanes and heat waves reduce crop yields and threaten food security. Governments in these countries struggle to adapt without sufficient funding or technology. International support is crucial for developing countries. Agreements like the Paris Agreement include financial aid to help these nations adapt to climate change. Wealthy countries provide funds for projects like building seawalls, improving irrigation systems, and transitioning to renewable energy. Developing countries also face challenges in reducing emissions. Many rely on fossil fuels for energy because it is cheaper and more accessible. Transitioning to clean energy requires significant investment, which can be difficult to afford. Despite these challenges, developing countries are taking steps towards sustainability. For example, Morocco has built one of the largest solar farms in the world. Bangladesh is using solar energy to provide electricity to rural areas. These initiatives show that progress is possible with the right support. Climate policies must consider the needs of developing countries. By providing financial and technological assistance, the global community can help these nations adapt and thrive. Supporting developing countries is essential for achieving global climate goals and ensuring a fair transition. Challenges in global climate cooperation. Global cooperation is essential for solving climate change, but it is not easy. Countries have different priorities, resources, and levels of responsibility, which make collaboration difficult. One challenge is economic competition. Some countries fear that strict climate policies will hurt their economies. For example, industries that rely on fossil fuels may face higher costs. This can discourage governments from committing to ambitious climate targets. Another challenge is unequal responsibility for climate change. Developed countries have historically contributed the most to global warming. However, developing countries are often the most affected. This imbalance leads to disagreements over who should pay for climate solutions. Enforcing international agreements is also difficult. There are no strict penalties for countries that fail to meet their climate targets. This lack of accountability reduces the effectiveness of agreements like the Paris Agreement. Geopolitical tensions add another layer of complexity. Rivalries between countries, such as the US and China, can hinder cooperation. Trust issues and differing political systems make collaboration more challenging. Despite these challenges, progress is being made. Initiatives like the Green Climate Fund provide financial support to developing countries. Global forums, such as the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP, bring nations together to negotiate solutions. Building trust and fostering cooperation are key to overcoming these challenges. By working together, countries can share resources, technology, and knowledge. Global climate cooperation is difficult, but it is essential for creating a sustainable future. Local governments and climate action. Local governments play a crucial role in climate action. While global agreements and national policies are important, the actions taken at the local level often have the most direct impact on communities. Cities and towns are responsible for managing transportation, housing, and waste systems, all of which affect the environment. By adopting sustainable practices, local governments can significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions. For example, some cities encourage public transportation by improving bus and train systems. Others create bike lanes and pedestrian-friendly areas to reduce car usage. Local governments also promote renewable energy. Many cities install solar panels on public buildings or invest in wind farms. These projects not only cut emissions, but also lower energy costs for communities. Recycling programs are another example of local climate action. Cities often provide bins and facilities for recycling paper, plastic, and glass. These efforts reduce waste and conserve resources. Education and awareness campaigns are key responsibilities of local governments. They inform residents about how to save energy, reduce waste, and support sustainable practices. For instance, some cities host workshops on composting or energy-efficient home improvements. However, local governments face challenges in climate action. Budget constraints can limit their ability to invest in green infrastructure. Additionally, not all communities support climate initiatives, especially if they involve higher taxes or changes to daily life. Despite these challenges, many cities are leading the way in climate action. For example, Copenhagen aims to become carbon neutral by 2025. San Francisco has a zero-waste goal, encouraging residents to recycle and compost. These examples show how local governments can drive meaningful change. By acting at the local level, governments can create healthier, more sustainable communities. Their efforts are an essential part of the global fight against climate change. Businesses and corporate climate responsibility. Businesses have a significant impact on the environment. Many industries rely on fossil fuels for energy, transportation, and production. This makes them major contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. In recent years, corporate climate responsibility has become a growing trend. Many companies are adopting sustainable practices to reduce their environmental footprint. For example, some businesses use renewable energy sources such as solar or wind power to run their operations. Others invest in energy-efficient equipment to lower emissions. Supply chain management is another area where companies are making changes. Businesses are finding ways to reduce waste and emissions during the production and transportation of goods. For instance, some companies use recyclable packaging or switch to electric delivery vehicles. Big brands are also committing to ambitious climate goals. For example, Amazon has pledged to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2040. Google already operates on 100% renewable energy. These commitments inspire other companies to take action. Corporate responsibility goes beyond reducing emissions. Many businesses support environmental projects, such as tree planting or wildlife conservation. They also educate employees and customers about sustainability through workshops and campaigns. However, not all companies prioritize climate action. Some resist change due to the cost of adopting green technologies. Others engage in greenwashing, where they exaggerate or lie about their sustainability efforts to improve their public image. To encourage corporate responsibility, governments and consumers play an important role. Policies like carbon taxes motivate businesses to reduce emissions. Customers can support eco-friendly brands and avoid those that harm the environment. By taking responsibility for their environmental impact, businesses can contribute to the fight against climate change. Their efforts are essential for achieving a sustainable future. Public awareness and climate education. Public awareness is a critical part of climate politics. When people understand the causes and effects of climate change, they are more likely to take action and support policies that protect the environment. Education plays a key role in building public awareness. Schools, universities, and community organizations teach people about climate science and sustainable practices. For example, students learn how human activities contribute to global warming and how renewable energy can reduce emissions. Media also has a significant influence on public awareness. Documentaries like An Inconvenient Truth and news coverage of extreme weather events highlight the urgency of climate action. Social media platforms allow activists to reach millions with messages about climate change. Community programs are another way to raise awareness. Workshops, seminars, and events educate people on topics like energy conservation and waste reduction. Some cities host green fairs, where residents can learn about sustainable products and practices. Despite these efforts, challenges remain. Many people lack access to accurate information about climate change. Misinformation spreads quickly, leading to confusion and inaction. Additionally, not everyone is willing to change their habits or support environmental policies. Public awareness campaigns must address these challenges by providing clear, reliable information. They should also emphasize the personal benefits of climate action, such as lower energy bills or cleaner air. When people are informed and engaged, they become powerful allies in the fight against climate change. Public awareness and education are essential for building a sustainable future. Future trends in climate politics. Climate politics is evolving rapidly as the world faces the increasing impacts of climate change. Future trends will shape how governments, businesses, and individuals respond to this global challenge. One important trend is the rise of green technologies. Innovations in renewable energy, electric vehicles, and energy storage are making it easier to reduce emissions. For example, advances in battery technology allow solar and wind energy to be stored and used when needed. Another trend is the growing role of artificial intelligence, AI, in climate solutions. AI can analyze large amounts of data to predict weather patterns, optimize energy use, and improve resource management. These tools help governments and businesses make informed decisions. Climate adaptation is becoming a major focus. While reducing emissions remains essential, countries are also preparing for the effects of climate change. This includes building infrastructure to protect against floods, heat waves, and rising sea levels. International cooperation is expected to grow as countries recognize the need for collective action. Agreements like the Paris Agreement will continue to guide global efforts, but new frameworks may emerge to address specific issues such as climate migration. The involvement of young people is another significant trend. Youth-led movements such as Fridays for Future are pushing leaders to prioritize climate action. As these young activists gain influence, they will shape the future of climate politics. Despite these positive trends, challenges remain. Political and economic conflicts may slow progress. However, the urgency of climate change will likely drive innovation and cooperation in the years ahead. The future of climate politics depends on the actions taken today. By embracing these trends, the world can move closer to a sustainable future. Conclusion: climate politics is a complex and evolving field. It addresses the global challenge of climate change by combining science, policy, and action at every level of society. Governments, businesses, and individuals each play a role in reducing emissions and adapting to the impacts of climate change. International agreements, renewable energy initiatives, and public awareness campaigns are all essential tools in this fight. However, challenges like economic interests, misinformation, and unequal resources make climate action difficult. Overcoming these obstacles requires cooperation, innovation, and a shared commitment to sustainability. The importance of climate politics will only grow as the effects of climate change become more severe. By understanding this topic and taking action, we can build a healthier, more sustainable world for future generations.